Hello everyone, welcome back. Till now, we have completed the first major requirement of a valid contract. If you remember our previous discussion, we were talking about the first important condition which is required to be fulfilled for the formation of a contract, or in other words, the first important condition that is important to be satisfied in order to make an agreement a contract, correct? And that was competency of parties. And we saw three things. Number one, minority. Number two, unsoundness of mind. And number three, persons prohibited by law, correct? And let me just give you a quick recap of what we were discussing, because today's discussion is a part of that series. So we know that agreement plus certain conditions, if these conditions are fulfilled, then only we have a contract. And currently we are discussing these conditions one by one. First thing which we discussed was competency of parties. I'm sure none of you would have any doubts with respect to this condition. All right. Today we are going to look at the second. We are going to start looking at the second condition, which is free consent. Or in other words, just think logically. If two parties are entering into an agreement, don't you think they should enter into the agreement voluntarily? Or in other words, nobody should force them to enter into an agreement, correct? That is how an agreement should be structured logically. If you want to take admission at NLSIU and NLSIU also wants to offer you a seat, both you and NLSIU should enter into this agreement voluntarily, not because somebody is pressurizing you or forcing you to enter into this agreement. That is the basic premise of any agreement, that both the parties should enter into the agreement voluntarily, correct? Now keep this in your mind while we are discussing free consent, and to make it easier, just write it down. Both offerer and offeree should agree to enter into the agreement voluntarily. All right, the key here is voluntarily. If both the offerer and the offeree voluntarily enter into an agreement, then we say that the consent given by both the parties is free. In other words, what is the meaning of consent? Consent simply means acceptance or agreeing. Okay, so whenever you have an agreement, you would notice that two parties are agreeing to do something, correct? And that is what we had discussed when we were discussing offer acceptance. And we had seen that an agreement is nothing but a mutual set of promises. One party is promising to do something and the other party is also promising to do something, correct? The key here is to ensure that these promises are made voluntarily, okay, not because they are pressurized to make these promises. And that is when we will say that the consent given by both the parties is free. Now, law says, as per Indian Contract Act, consent is free or freely given, or in other words, consent is voluntarily given only if there are some 4 or 5 conditions, only when none of these conditions exists. Let's write it down. Number 1, coercion. Okay, I will explain all these terms to you. Second is undue influence. Third is fraud. Fourth is misrepresentation. And fifth is mistake. All right. So what the law says is that if you have to check whether both the parties have entered into an agreement voluntarily, or in other words, both the parties have given their consent freely, when does that happen? When none of these things exists. It means that if any one of these scenarios exists, then the consent is not free. For example, let's say there is no undue influence, no fraud, no misrepresentation, no mistake, but there is coercion. Then we can safely say that the consent is not free. So the key here is, in order to have free consent, none of these 5 scenarios should exist. Today, the focus of our discussion would be coercion. Okay. If I ask you what is the literal meaning of coercion, what would you say? Coercion is a term that we keep using in our day-to-day life. Coercion basically means forcing someone to do something. Okay? Forcing someone to do something. For example, let's say if I tell you, let's say I'm teaching you in an offline class, okay? And I tell you that if you don't give me a dairy milk chocolate today, then I won't teach you. Here, I'm coercing you to give me a dairy milk chocolate, correct? I'm forcing you to do that. You don't want to give that chocolate to me, but I'm making a threat. And the threat is that if you don't give me the chocolate, then I won't teach. So you are left with no other option, because you've come to the class, you want to study. So you know that if I want to study, I will have to give the chocolate to the teacher, because the teacher has forced me to give the chocolate. That is what is coercion. Okay, in layman terms, the meaning of coercion in terms of the contract jurisprudence, or whenever we are talking about law of contracts, the meaning of coercion is slightly narrower. Okay, by narrower, what I mean to say is, first of all, we have seen that coercion is basically forcing someone to do something. Okay, this we are all clear about. But the law says that not all types of force. So whenever you force someone to do something, it can be done in a number of ways, correct? Let's take the chocolate example. In the chocolate example, I am forcing you to do something. And how am I doing that? By telling you that if you don't give me the chocolate, then I won't teach. Other way of forcing you would have been, let's say, if I had a gun with me, okay, I would have taken out my gun, put at your head, and then I would have told you, give me this chocolate. Okay, that is another way of coercing someone or forcing someone to do something. So there are various ways in which coercion can be given. Law confines coercion into 2-3 categories. Basically, say what it means is that whenever coercion is done in a particular manner, then only law will consider it as coercion for the purpose of contract. Correct? Now, what are these things? Number one, it's very important, and please pay very close attention, because a lot of people don't understand the meaning of coercion. They think that forcing someone to do something is coercion in all scenarios. That is not the case. Okay, coercion for the purpose of Indian Contract Act is applicable only when these 2 or 3 conditions, whatever I'm going to write down, only when coercion is given in any of these manners. Okay, first way to coerce someone, what can that be? You write, commit a crime or threat to commit a crime. Okay, let's take the dairy milk example here. I come to teach you in the class and I start beating you. I beat you like a crazy person. Okay, I have a stick with me. I beat you madly. Then I tell you, if you don't give me your chocolate, I will keep beating you. Okay. Question, is this a force? am I forcing you to do something? The answer is yes. You did not want to give me the chocolate, but I'm forcing you to do that. How? Firstly, I started beating you. Is beating someone a crime? Yes. So here we can say that I coerced you by committing a crime. All right. Let's look at the second example. Threat to commit a crime. Instead of actually beating you, what if I tell you that if you don't give me the chocolate, I will beat you? Question, is this coercion for the purpose of law of contract? The answer would be yes, because I am forcing you to give me the chocolate. And how am I forcing you? I am forcing you by threatening to beat you, correct? I am making a threat that I will beat you. Is making a threat to beat someone a crime? Logically speaking, just even if you don't understand what is a crime and what all types of crimes are there, that's completely all right. Just think logically. Okay, or if I told you, let's say that if you don't give me the chocolate, I will kill you. Am I making a threat? The answer is yes. The threat is to do what? The threat is to kill you. Is it a threat to commit a crime? Is killing someone a crime? The answer is yes. Okay, so that is the first category. Second category. Illegally keep someone's property. Okay, now let's say after the class, you bring your bag to the class and your mobile phone. Okay, so after the class is over, I take your mobile phone and I tell you that I will not give you this mobile phone until you give me the chocolate. Okay, is keeping your mobile phone a crime without your permission? The answer could be yes. It could be either a theft, it could be misappropriation. Let's not go into the details of that. It may or it may not be a crime. Okay, so forget this A for the time being. What this B is talking about is that if somebody forces, so let's say there are two parties, A and B. If A forces B to do something, so A wants B to do something, but B does not want to do that. So A has to force B to do that. And the manner of coercion, how is A forcing B to do that? By keeping B's property with him illegally, which means that B has certain property and A has kept that property illegally. And the only intention is to force B to do something, correct? And that is what we saw in the classroom example. I take your mobile phone illegally. That mobile phone does not belong to me. It is your mobile phone, but I keep it with myself. Okay, and I tell you that if you don't give me the chocolate, I will not return your mobile phone. Have I illegally kept your property? The answer is yes. Why have I kept your property? To force you to do something. And that is what is coercion. Okay, so whenever you see any question on coercion, what will you think? Let's look at a few easy tricks. Okay, any question on coercion, you yourself answer. Let's make it simple. What are the things that you will focus at? First, is a party forcing the other party to do something? It implies that the other party does not want to do that thing. Okay, but he is being pressurized to do that. So it's easy to check. Whenever you get any question on coercion, the first thing that you will check is whether any of the parties to the agreement is forcing the other party to do something. Okay, to do something or not to do something. Okay, it could be a negative also. And second thing is, how is coercion being done? Or in other words, how is the party forcing the other party? Okay, I hope it becomes easy for you now. First, we know that we have to check whether there is any force by one party on the other party. Second, how is that force being exercised? And what will you check? First, is the force being exercised by committing a crime or by threatening to commit a crime? We will look at one more example so that you never forget this. Okay? Let's say there are two parties, Rahul and Aman. Alright? Rahul beats someone badly. So Rahul beats someone badly. Okay? And then Rahul tells Aman, sign this contract. Okay? What will Aman do in this scenario? Now, Aman is afraid. Aman does not want to sign the contract, but he has no choice. He knows that if he doesn't sign, he will get further beating because he's already been beaten by Rahul. So is Rahul, apply the test that we saw, is first thing, Rahul wants Aman to sign a contract, correct? Aman does not want to sign that contract. In this scenario, is Rahul forcing Aman to sign the contract? The answer is yes. Second, come to step 2. How is Rahul forcing Aman? The answer is Rahul is forcing Aman by beating him, okay, which is a crime. So Rahul has committed a crime, correct? This is how this coercion is being done in this scenario. Now let's look at a similar scenario. Rahul and Aman. Alright. Now Rahul tells Aman, Rahul wants, again same thing, Rahul wants Aman to sign a contract. Aman does not want to sign that contract. Okay. So Rahul tells Aman, if you don't sign this contract, I will kill you. Okay? And Rahul has a gun with him. Does Aman have any choice? The answer is no. Okay? So are both the tests 1 and 2 being fulfilled? First, is Rahul forcing Aman to do something? The answer is yes. Rahul is forcing Aman to sign the contract. Question, the step 2. How is this coercion being done? How is Rahul coercing Aman or forcing Aman? Rahul is forcing Aman by making a threat. And the threat is to do what? The threat is to kill Aman. So is threatening, if you make a threat to kill someone, is that a crime? Logically speaking, the answer should be yes. Because if you make a threat to kill someone, that if you don't do this, I'll kill you, that is a crime, right? Even if you've not studied about crimes, logically you can say that, no, you can't, nobody can make a threat like that. Okay? So in this scenario, we know that threatening to commit a crime will also fall under coercion, correct? So we know that in both these examples, there is coercion. Alright, now let me ask you one question. Let's say you want an iPhone, okay? And you tell your father that if you don't buy me an iPhone, I will commit a suicide. Okay? Question, is this coercion? So you and your father, okay, you want to buy an iPhone. You want your father to buy you an iPhone. All right. Your father does not want to purchase the iPhone for you. So therefore, you force your father, you coerce your father by telling him that if you don't buy this iPhone for me, I will commit suicide. What we need to determine is whether this is coercion or not. And how will you apply the test? How will you determine whether this is coercion or not? You will have to apply the two-step test, correct? First is a party forcing the other party to do something? The answer is yes. You are forcing your father to do something which he does not want to do. Second, so this is fulfilled. One is fulfilled. Second, how is this coercion being done? How are you forcing him to do something? You are forcing your father to do something by making a threat that you will commit suicide. All right. Let's see if this falls under coercion or not. In the second step, what had I told you? That coercion is when somebody forces the other party to do something by committing a crime, okay, or by threatening to commit a crime. In this scenario, there is no commission of crime yet, correct? Because we are still at the stage of threat. You have not committed suicide. You have made a threat that you will commit suicide. So you will have to apply this one, threat to commit a crime. Okay, is threat to commit suicide, is threat to commit suicide a crime? I can tell you the answer right now because I know that you have not done law of crimes, but I can tell you, if you make a threat that I will commit suicide and this is how you force somebody to do something, this is not coercion, because a threat to commit suicide is not a crime. Okay, so this is where people get confused. And I know that to solve cases of coercion, you will need to have a great understanding of law of crimes as well. But whenever you encounter any case with respect to coercion, just apply this mind. It has the person who is using force against the other, has that person committed any crime, or has that person made a threat to commit a crime, and that is how he is forcing the other party to do something. Okay, if it is a crime, then it will be coercion. If it's not a crime, then it is not coercion. Let's look at another example. Let's say I see you commit an offense of theft. So your friend sits next to you, okay? While there is break, during the break, let's say there's a 10-minute break during the in between two lectures, okay? And what you do is, your friend is not in the class, so you take his phone from his bag, okay? So you commit an offense of theft. You steal his phone, okay? And I see you doing that because I'm in the class. I'm in the class, and I see you commit this offense of theft. So I tell you that, look, if you don't give me, and let's say you have a dairy milk chocolate, and I force you by saying that if you don't give me your dairy milk chocolate, I will report this offense of theft to the police. So whatever you did, you committed an offense, right? You took your friend's phone from his bag without his permission, and I have seen that. So I tell you that if you don't, and you have a dairy milk which I want, so I tell you that if you don't give me your dairy milk chocolate, I will go and tell the police that you have stolen the phone. Question, is it coercion? You will have to see what is the threat. Threat is to report to the police. This is the threat that I am making, right? That if you don't give me your dairy milk chocolate, I will report you to the police for committing an offense of theft. Is reporting to the police And this is not false reporting, by the way. You have actually committed the offense of theft. Okay? If I report to the police about an actual commission of a crime, is that a crime? Is reporting to the police about an actual crime a crime? The answer is no. Okay? So will coercion apply in this scenario? The answer is no. And we know why coercion no. Because reporting to the police about an actual crime that you have witnessed is not a crime. And we saw that whenever there's a case of coercion, there has to be a commission of crime or threat to commit a crime. So in this scenario, there is no coercion. Even if I'm forcing you to give me the dairy milk chocolate, I'm not committing a crime, or I've not made a threat to commit a crime. So there is no coercion. Okay? So this is our point number A. And point number B is what we had seen. If somebody illegally keeps the other person's property. Okay? If I keep your phone and I tell you that if you don't give me your chocolate, I will not give this phone to you, that is also coercion. So party A illegally keeping party B's property so as to force party B to do something. So these are the two scenarios that you have to keep in mind whenever you deal with a case of coercion. Now, what happens when there is coercion? What is the effect of coercion on an agreement? Law says it makes the consent in this scenario is not free because one party was forced to do something. And what will happen to the agreement? The agreement will become voidable. Okay? So the effect of coercion on an agreement is that it makes the agreement voidable. And we all know what is voidable. We had seen it in the last class. Voidable means capable of being enforced at the discretion of the affected party. So in this case, whoever has been coerced or forced, that party has the discretion about what? Whether to proceed with the agreement or cancel the agreement. It's quite logical, no? If I force you to do something, law should give you the right to cancel that agreement. So this agreement is voidable at your option if you have been coerced. Alright? If I put a gun at your head and I tell you that if you don't give me your chocolate, I will kill you. And at that moment, you don't have a choice, so you will agree. But later, let's say you want to revoke or you want to cancel the agreement. You have a valid case, correct? Because your consent was not free. You did not voluntarily agree to give me the chocolate. It was only because of the gun that you had agreed. Okay, so this is the effect of coercion on an agreement. Alright? This is highly technical. So just let me make a summary. Coercion is basically, first of all, you write forcing someone. One party forces other to do something. And by the way, keep one thing in mind. It is not necessary that the threat should come from the party to the agreement only. For example, let's say your and my case, chocolate case. Let's say I have a brother, okay, and my brother makes a threat to you, saying that if you don't give this chocolate to the teacher, then I will kill you. My brother is not a party to the agreement between you and I, but the threat is coming from him. Still, it is a case of coercion, okay? So this threat can come from either of the parties to the agreement or from a stranger also. So in coercion, there is a threat to, or basically there's one party is forcing the other party to do something, and you will have to remember this: by committing a crime or by making a threat to commit a crime. And second is by illegally keeping someone else's property. Alright, I hope you understood. Revise it. Tomorrow we are going to look at the next element in free consent, which is undue influence.